So namaste, welcome to Satsang today. One of the subjects that has come up several times this week in talking to different beings is something that's important to recognize and remember, and very useful to help us ease into that awakened place and perhaps to stay there for longer. And that tool is this sense of seeing beauty. And it was a particular thing that really helped me along my journey too. There were particular things that, when I focused upon them, seemed to take me into a very high place, a very open, simple state where it isn't really a state, but where there is very little thinking, if any at all, very little analysis, and just an appreciation of something or someone or whatever it is. And that's really what we're doing when we're recognizing what is real, what is formless and infinite, intangible about us. We find that very thing beautiful, don't we? It's not a thing, and we're paying attention to that which is beautiful. And there is another way also when we're paying attention to forms, by recognizing beauty that's all around us. And, there's certain things that we all find beautiful. If we looked at a particular sunset, it's time in the evening that it is now, where there is starting to move towards twilight here, and there's this deep, rich orange in the sky sometimes, this really pink color. It's strikingly beautiful against the blue, the darkening blue of the sky. And many beings, of course, find being in nature their favorite particular place in nature, trees or beaches or the ocean, whatever it is that we find beautiful. And it takes us into a state of love, a state of a direct appreciation of what is. It takes us into really seeing something as it actually is, rather than experiencing our thoughts about it. When we're playing with our favorite pet, or watching a newborn child, or admiring a piece of art, listening to some beautiful music that moves us, we're not in analysis, are we, in those moments? We're not, you're not listening to something that moves you to tears and thinking it should have been written differently than it is. It should have been recorded differently. You're just totally in that moment, appreciating what is. And art of all kinds gives us a window into beauty, a snapshot of manifestation as it is, a small snapshot of manifestation frozen for a moment. Really, manifestation is always moving and changing. So is it these particular things that are beautiful, or is it really in the eye of the beholder? Is there a certain way that we can use this sense of what we find beautiful to help us on our pathway to deepen our seeing? And if we really look at the things that we don't find beautiful, the more thoughts that we have about them, those particular things, we'll find them, we might label them mundane or unimportant. There are so many things in our existence every day that we do not even notice, because it's kind of labeled with this unimportant to our this label of being unimportant, insignificant in terms of where we want to be in our awakening, in our life, in our relationships, in our career, all of that. But what if we find something beautiful because we're coming to it from a thought-free space already? Just a direct appreciation. When you're standing on the beach or watching that sunset, you're just there in that moment with it, aren't you? Fully enjoying it. And there's very little urge, if any at all, to change that moment. And maybe that is where the sense of it being beautiful arises from. Maybe what we find beautiful is really not the particular thing outside, but how it makes us feel when we're in appreciation of what is already. Where we're not having lots of thoughts about something and how it should be or could be different than it is. So if we're changing our definition of what we find beautiful, we'll see that anything that we look at without the eyes of time and change and progress and evolution, we're going to find a depth of beauty in our everyday existence, in everyday objects that the mind labels as mundane, insentient, irrelevant, from the furnishings that are in the room that you're sitting in, to people that pass you by on the street that you'll never perhaps meet, to even our own thoughts can become a source of beauty when we can encounter ourselves and the world exactly as it is, from seeing it as it really, really is. So human beings get stuck in this trap of thinking about things and therefore not really seeing them at all, not really experiencing them in their fullness. And then because we're not experiencing the fullness that we intuitively know is available somewhere inside us, we try to change our experience, try to get to a better experience. And that only serves to help us agree with the thoughts about this moment. But there is a kind of direct and straightforward, naked seeing of something where we're not labeling it at all. We're more interested in experiencing it right here in this moment than thinking about it. And if you can think back to the last time you cried, were moved to tears with joy, or from a stirring piece of music, or the last time you were just in awe of something, or had a sense of wonder or curiosity, a deep and rich curiosity, there was automatically very little thought process going on. And that's not something that just has to happen by accident every now and again, or when we go on a holiday once a year or twice a year to our favorite place. Yes, there are certain places in the world and certain beings that we find that beauty easier to find around. But it's not really true that we're cut off from that beauty. What if it is all around us all the time? And we're not noticing because we're kind of caught up in trying to change something in our thoughts. What if there is some stunning beauty at all times, all around us, everywhere we go? What if all of this manifestation, all of this creation, all of this these seeming diversity of infinite objects and forms are like sculptures, like beautiful works of art? What if each thing is a sculpture in and of itself, just there for you to revel in, to marvel in? And the more that we kind of, we could all think about particular beings and things that we think, well, I can't really see them as a beautiful art sculpture. But if we will make the effort to really try to see what they really are, what this particular object really is, without the labels that mind puts on it: wanted, not wanted, useful, not useful, helpful or unhelpful, like or dislike. Just for a moment, if we can encounter You can do it right now, wherever you're watching this. Just to set aside any particular ideas about anything and really engage in a deep curiosity to find out what it is. Because that's what's happening when we view, if we were to view a particular painting or a piece of art that we really feel is beautiful, it's kind of just frozen this moment in time and taken a little bit of it for us to admire, to appreciate. And the most useful place to do this is with our own selves. Can we stop for a moment and appreciate the marvel, the wonderful sculpture that the self made, that is you, the human being that arose as a shape out of the shapeless, form out of the formless? What if none of this is just a dead, flat, inert, insentient object? What if that's not at all what any of it is? What if everything is the sculpture made by you, for you to enjoy, and that all of this manifestation is a kind of ongoing, three-dimensional, 24/7 continuous sculpture, like a potter's wheel, where this clay is continuously being created again and again anew every single moment? What if everything is new and fresh in each moment? And what if it's not really true that something was created and that's it, and it lasts as long as it lasts, like our body? What if everything is being recreated, if creation is a continuous and ongoing thing, and it's constantly in motion, this manifestation, never the same from one moment to the next, and always changing? And it is this beautiful work of art that you, the self, created for you. It's all here for you to enjoy when you have the eyes to see it, when we're not looking through the eyes of time and change, when we're not looking through thought. I know what this thing is, mind says, and it's not interesting to me at all. This is not useful in my life. This thing is not useful in my awakening, therefore it's not wanted. What if we just stop for a moment, and I really urge you to, with me right now, just to, whatever your eyes fall upon in the room that you're sitting in, what is it like to experience that thing as it actually is? There is a beauty that is innate in the way that we look at something. Where we're looking from is so much more important than what we're looking at in terms of joy and beauty. Is this a room full of inanimate objects? Or is this a marvelous set of sculptures that you have made? How amazing that you can make all of this. All of this arises out of you. The universe is your potter's wheel, and it never looks the same twice. You are utterly amazing in the shapes that you can create endlessly. And are you enjoying it, or are you missing it? Are you missing this marvelous thing that is you, this unfolding sculpture, three-dimensional, a real-time, ever new, ever fresh, every moment? Even your own body is never the same from one moment to the next. It's constantly changing and upgrading. When we see this way, then we're not just looking at something and labeling it. And we're not looking at it, demanding that it changes to make us feel better. We're not demanding that someone else changes to make us feel better. We're seeing from a much more direct place that sees the essence of what everything is, which is the same as your very own essence, where there really isn't anything that needs to change. And amazingly, when we see the beauty in everything that's around us, That everything is a one-time only. When that shape has gone, it will never appear the same again, ever. That's what it means to be infinite. And if we will open our eyes and not see with these demands that things change, not see our ideas about things, but really see what something is, then we'll find ourselves in a state of joy and clarity and love, and we'll be seeing beauty everywhere we look. It won't just be from time to time. Because that's really what we all want, isn't it? We all want to feel the way that we feel when we're standing in front of that sunset or when we're listening to that music. Does it have to be sporadic? Does it have to only be when we're with a particular being? Or can we feel that way all the time when we're appreciating what is, because we're finally seeing it as it is in this moment right now? Even our negative emotions, even our doubts, even our confusion, our unworthiness can all be seen in this light too. If you're feeling that way in this moment, then you are a perfectly sculpted appearance of unworthiness. You are not a human being who is a work in progress. You are the self taking the shape of unworthiness in this moment. If you see it from that place, it's going to change very, very quickly. So I really invite you to see yourself, perhaps most importantly, and other beings with these direct eyes, with this direct way of seeing, with this invitation to see the essence of everything, and not to keep missing what is right in front of us. You know, every time you do the dishes, there is never the same collection of pots and pans and knives and forks than there was before. And every time you take out the rubbish, the garbage, there is a completely different sculpture, a collection of things in that. There is never the same cars on the road with you when you do the same journey. It's always different. There is a beauty right here in this moment, a connectivity, a sense of intimacy with everything that is here. When we can allow ourselves to go beyond the thought about what something is. And there is a joy, a sense of joy and freedom that really begins to emerge, which really is the awakened state when we're seeing everything as it really is, rather than what we're thinking about it. And I'd really urge you not to miss your life. Don't be someone trying to get somewhere all the time. Have you ever stopped to examine what's right here in front of you? It might be the infinite being that you're searching for might be right here in front of you, everywhere, all around you, in disguise as all these different shapes, disguised only by the thoughts that we insist on keeping about them. And of course, certain things and certain beings, we may find it more challenging to perceive from this place at first. But we can start with simpler things. Take any inanimate object and ask what it really, really is. Just admire the shape of it, that it's perfect in the shape it is right now, and see where that takes you. And very quickly you'll find yourself in a place where there's no resistance to anything and no need to. Start with what you already find beautiful and recognize that whatever is happening in that moment, there is nothing other happening than appreciation, love, total intimacy with what is. And that's where the sense of beauty comes from, doesn't it? The sense of being connected, to a sense of being present completely with that thing. If you just do this with your own self, it will change your entire existence. I am exactly as I am in this moment. I am formless and infinite and everywhere. And I'm also a human being. I'm also appearing as a human being with whatever's going on right now, whatever shape I'm making in this moment. Beauty is one of the fastest ways into, and joy, of course, laughter, joy, and beauty, appreciation, into that placeless place that is you. And if you just get into that as often as you can, making a little effort to appreciate what is, it'll get easier and easier, and there'll be less and less willingness to think about things. Thoughts will become simply less and less relevant to your everyday experience. Doesn't mean they'll disappear necessarily. But you won't be automatically referencing them. Okay. Okay, so I have 3 or 4 questions here that have been emailed in. I'll see if I can get through 2 of them, and then we'll, if you want to raise your hand and ask a question or share something, I'll see if I can, feel free to do so. I'll share a couple of questions and we'll see how much time we've got. Okay, so the first question says, greetings, Helen. I've only recently found you and I'm very grateful for your presence. I've started to read your first book, Dissolving Ego. I was a seeker. Now I feel I have chosen a pathless path and feel departed from a life I knew. However, I still have one question. I would really be grateful if you could explain the difference between physical body ascension to higher consciousness versus enlightenment. The reason for this question is this physical body is going through some changes, carbon to crystalline process. It looks very real, as I could witness the metamorphosis of my body. What is the purpose of physical body upgrade from an ascension point of view when I really don't have a body? What is the purpose of ascension from 3 or 4D to 5D consciousness and beyond? I have experienced little glimpses of pure awareness. I am aware that I am not my body. However, the concept of ascension puts so much emphasis on the body, and I have experienced many drastic physical changes myself for almost 3 years, so it's hard for me not to investigate. Your wisdom on this would be so helpful for me. I have attached a link which briefly describes what carbon to crystalline ascension is, with much love and gratitude to you. Well, I may not be the best person to ask about ascension because I'm not ultimately sure what it is. But I will say, as you've pointed to, that anything that focuses upon changing the frequency of the body is not going to be the most direct route. And because, as you said, the body is a concept in itself, and it's a shape formed in the shapeless you, and it's not going to be here forever. It's not going to be permanent. From my own perspective, before I got onto very direct teachings in my own pathway, I was doing a lot of energy work, Kundalini work, and trying to awaken this energy and shift the frequency of the body. Whether that's similar to ascension, I don't know. But eventually it became clear that that was putting the cart before the horse for me. And that the changes that I was looking to happen in my body, in my life, in my emotions, in my thought process, all of that, the higher frequencies I was trying to activate were going to happen anyway by themselves as a side effect or symptom of awakening. That trying to do something to the body to change it is not going to produce a permanent change. Allowing the body to reflect the changing seeing that we're having as to what we really are will result in permanent change and higher frequencies. So it's something I think that we all like to play with for a while, don't we? Where we feel that we are a separate being. Of course, you know, a being moving through time and evolving and all of that. Of course, we want to be the best being that we can be. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But once we kind of find a more direct teaching, hopefully it's easier to see that everything you're trying to perhaps achieve within the ascension process is going to happen anyway as a result of the seeing that is deepening inside you. As you said, you've had some glimpses of pure awareness and a recognition that you're not your body. And we're not discarding or discounting the body here at all. We're just looking for the most direct way to have happen, most efficient way to have happen what we're wanting to happen anyway. Again, having said all that, I'm not an expert at all on awakening. So lovely. We'll go through the next question. Okay. Hello, Helen. I've been reading and learning Raman's teachings and other non-dual teachings in general and find your teachings easy and very direct. About a year ago, during my meditation, my consciousness expanded and I saw the writings, "Be the Legacy." This was my first experience ever of seeing anything like that during a meditation. A month from then, life started turning upside down. My husband lost his job, and since we are expats living in America, we lost our work permits. It's been a year, and we are still waiting on our work permits. This means we are living in a foreign land with no income, no means to find a job or travel until we get our visas or unemployment benefits whatsoever. This is the life situation currently. However, we do our meditations regularly, and I've had glimpses of our true nature of expansion, awareness, stillness, and questions. But I don't know how this will help us with our current situation. I can't go back with my teachings to a normal unconscious way of living, and life seems to have come to a standstill. It seems like I'm losing my identity with personal life and goals, but not quite. And my spiritual life seems to be at bay as I'm not getting any help from there as well. I feel like I'm checkmated. Helen, would this have anything to do with any awakening at all, or is it just some destiny playing out? Heartfelt thanks and love. So it's not uncommon what you've described. You know, sometimes after some seeing of what we really are, there can be for a while a sense of some things begin to get shaken up in our life. And if our experience in our life is stalled out in some particular place, we're experiencing the same thing over and over, or we don't feel as if we're moving forward in any particular area, it's always and only because there is some belief in the way that's still being believed, some idea that is being experienced. Whatever we believe to be true, we will experience as real, because we are the infinite self already. And we're never more aware of what we're still believing than after we've had a seeing to any degree of what we really are. So, having had a seeing that you are much more than you thought you were, then the next step, or the continuing step in the embodiment, living as that, will be to examine beliefs that are coming up that are no longer true for you, that are being experienced, causing suffering, and are no longer in agreement with what you've seen yourself to be. So before we recognize what we really are, we can get away with these thoughts that I want or I need something, or something is absent, something is missing. But after we've had a certain level of seeing, these thoughts will be very untrue for us and we'll begin to suffer. So if the situation for you both is repeating or staying stuck in this kind of holding pattern, I'd ask you to examine what the ideas are around that. Our mind says, well, of course I'm going to feel that I need more money, or I need this work permit, or whatever it is that we're waiting for physically. And maybe something inside too, I need more peace, I can't relax until this is resolved. In reality, these ideas are no longer compatible with what you've seen yourself to be. Can you really need anything? Even though it really seems that way, of course it seems that way. And I'm talking from my own experience here. I really remember having about 2 days left of money, basically 2 days left of food, and knowing that something had to be paid within 2 days and I didn't have the money for it. And I really had to sit with this question: do I really need this? Do I really need money? Do I really need whatever it is? The very insistence that we need it, even though that is our experience in the moment, is making us feel separate from it, that there are two things, me and what I need, or perhaps as many things I feel I need. Even feeling separate from the peace I want, even if I want it, I'm stating it's not here for me right now. It's absent. And can that be true for you, the infinite being, if you're everything and everywhere? Can it really be true that this can be held back from you? Are you really out of control here? You just have to wait for this to resolve? As we question, it's going to start to free up the manifestation. It's going to begin to move forward again. Is it to do with awakening or destiny? Well, destiny really is only the path that our life is taking based on the ideas, the assumptions, the beliefs we've been holding on to. So it's a little bit of both, isn't it? That the seeing that you've had and the dedication to your awakening is causing these beliefs that are still being held on to really stand out and be experienced in quite a stark way. So what does this experience, this feeling, suggest to you? Does it suggest that you feel, I really need to move forward, I really need to break through, I feel stuck? Have a look at what the ideas are, recognizing that as we question and transcend these ideas, you can begin to allow your life to free up and to move forward. It's not that you're doing anything wrong at all. It's actually that you're doing it right. And now, as your seeing deepens, we're asked to let go of each of these ideas that no longer serve us. So wherever any of us are stuck and experiencing the same thing over and over again, that is always because there's some belief that's asking to be examined and released. So I hope that is helpful for you. It's if we keep allowing your experience right now in this moment would really agree that you do need something. And that would be very true for you as a separate being, wouldn't it? There's things outside of you that you need to come to you. But is that true in your every awareness? And the very fact that this belief is troubling you now is showing you how your awakening is deepening. And you might feel a little crazy, kind of questioning, do I really need this money or this resolution or this breakthrough, whatever it is that you feel you need, this peace, when it really seems absent. But this is the only way to resolve it. And the amount that it's been stuck for, the time and all of that, there is an equally beautiful resolution and unfolding and something even better coming for you both afterwards. Manifestation is always moving towards something better than it was previously. So just that knowing then is going to help you question and move beyond. It's nothing you're doing wrong. It's just some idea showing itself now, some deep-seated feeling. It usually comes with some negative emotion as well. And it's asking you to question. And if you haven't seen it already, I would suggest looking at the Core Teachings video on the YouTube playlist. Called Contemplation. Shows you how to work with a question and see if it's really true that you need something, and use that question to help it resolve. Okay, so I'll read those other two. We'll do that Monday. JJ, whenever you're ready, if you want to.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, forgive the patch. I had a night procedure, so I'm not a pirate. I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate this lesson because it really resonated very, very strongly. I think I've mentioned before how, it resonates in nature. You look at the flowers, the intricate beauty, the artistry that is expressed there. I always wonder, who is the artist behind that? Who are the creatures that make that? It's just incredibly beautiful. Same thing for birds. So there is beauty everywhere. I totally agree with you. I have two questions, though. The first one is, excuse me, I have every time I have that awe and I recognize the beauty pretty much everywhere. There's a very strong sense of gratefulness that goes with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know where that goes. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not sure where that goes, where this enormous feeling of gratitude, which is almost always there. I mean, is it useful or anything? And that's all I'll ask for this time. Excuse me, I have something.
Yeah, it's that feeling. For myself, it's kind of a feeling of being just extraordinarily lucky. Like just absolutely blessed, or some gratitude, appreciation, whatever word we're putting to it, of just being amazed, to be able to appreciate something that's so beautiful. And then that just is a major sign for me that we're in that very high state, a very simple state that is where we're not really thinking about anything in particular in those moments. If your mind is talking, you're not really paying attention to it, are you? Just kind of enjoying whatever you're looking at. And that will just become more and more continuous. It just begins to build. That feeling became, for me, like a 6-year-old in Disneyland, like here's free tickets to everything you could ever want to go on forever. It's just that kind of feeling. I'm literally living in paradise and I'd never noticed, that kind of very, very humbling, very awe-inspiring. Sometimes it comes with a lot of tears, but just a recognition that none of this has been what I thought it was, and it's all got a different quality to it when I really can see it as it is. It's definitely a very good thing when we notice that kind of gratitude feeling as a signpost that we're really directly being with what is. We're being intimate with what is when that feeling arises, aren't we?
Okay, thank you very much. The second question has to do with the fact that not everything is beautiful. I mean, a storm, it can be beautiful, but the devastation it leaves behind it is not pretty. You have forest fires, you have animals killed all over the place, and I'm not even mentioning what men do
Yeah.
to themselves around the world, to each other. So, is it possible to transcend that and see the beauty in everything that happens? I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's the way the Numenon perceive it. I'm kind of puzzled, and I have some difficulty with that.
Yeah, whatever we're feeling is not beautiful is usually because we're giving it some label of being bad or unwanted or something. And of course, human beings are unique in that we are the only species, at least that I'm aware of, that would do harm to each other on purpose. So but eventually, even you can see that from a different place, that it is the expression of the one being, which is really believing it's a separate being, and this is what it does. This is how it behaves when it feels threatened and scared and separate to everything and not good enough. And that seems extraordinarily real to us when we're in that, of course. It's only when we come out of it afterwards that we realize none of that was real, actually. It seems very, very real while it's occurring, doesn't it? So it's as you begin to look for the essence of everything rather than the labels we've put on it, the names and the thoughts we have about it. Most of us are so detached from actually seeing and experiencing what's happening around us in every moment, because we're so stuck in thinking about it that we miss most of what's going on. So could we even know if something was beautiful or not if we're not really fully paying attention to it, if more of our attention is going to what we're thinking about it than the thing itself? That's the first step, really. It was for me, at least, to recognize maybe I haven't really seen anything in its fullness, in its completeness.
Thanks.
Does
Thank
that
you.
help you?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Good, good. Lovely. Okay. Siska, when you're ready.
Can you hear me, Helen?
I
Can
just
you hear
about
me?
hear you. Can you just speak up a little bit?
Okay, wait a moment.
I
Is
can't
better?
hear
Is better?
a tiny bit.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you. First, thank you for all you offer, for your beautiful teachings.
Thank you.
I am practicing self-inquiry, and for a couple of months now, everything I knew, what was what I used to do or used to love or used to like, has fallen away. Um, so I'm a bit in a sort of wondering what's coming up now, but I can let it be.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm very curious about that. What that will be like, or how that evolves. But my question is, since I'm practicing with your teachings, I notice myself that it feels difficult to act in the world with friends, with work, with and that because I'm observing myself, and then with a client, I think, oh, don't don't step into judgment, don't step into labels or opinions, or and then it's really hard to concentrate on my work instead of concentrating on the teaching. Um, uh, how how can I integrate this more? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, it's I think it's a stage that a lot of beings go through. I know I did, where it just kind of your mind gets obsessed with it, doesn't it? It's thinking about it constantly. Excuse me. Um, and it's got a new toy to play with, and it's and even when you're supposed to be focusing on something else, it's sometimes challenging to do that completely.
Yeah.
Um, it is. It is a phase that will pass, but also a recognition that you can use whatever you're doing. So if you find yourself at work, you can, or in a family situation, just melting that dividing line between my satsang and my work, or my satsang and my family time. So I could be asking, doing some inquiry in my practice by myself, what really am I? And then you could, when you're sat with other beings or when you're at work, just gently inquiring into what is this client that's in front of me? Who is this client? Really, it won't obviously be as intense, and you might not want to close your eyes, even drift away while you're at work, but just recognizing that there's a belief in a dividing line, that this is my spiritual life and this is the rest of my life. And that got very uncomfortable for me after a while. I didn't want that division between the two. Wanted to
very distracting also.
say again, sorry.
It's on both sides distracting.
Yeah.
So when I'm at work, I'm distracted from my practice, and when I practice, I'm distracted through work. So I can do that. Yeah.
It is natural that mind will get very, very excited for a while about it, and we want to spend more time in practice. But when we're spending time in practice, we're thinking about what we should be doing, and then when we're doing what we should be doing, we want to spend more time in practice, and that will go on for a little while. But as you deepen in your seeing, that there's more and more of an appreciation for just wherever you're. Can I be? If I am the awareness, and I'm just present, can I just be present at work? Can I really be with this person that I'm talking to right now? Can I really, if I'm spending time with my family, can I just be with them without trying to get anything out of that time I'm with them? So eventually your satsang becomes the same as your life. There's the formal times when you may sit down to practice, but it's just less and less scheduled and more being right where you are in that moment, and less ideas that this is more spiritual and this activity is less spiritual. That wherever I find myself, I'm either present in that moment wherever I am, or I'm lost in my head. Because you could be sat in deep meditation and be completely lost in thoughts, or you could be sat with a client at work and just be fully engaged in listening to them and really have this open, honest connectivity with them and share something special. So it's really how we're coming to that activity rather than trying to get away from some activities. The stuff we've got to do, we've got to work, we've got to whatever we've got to do.
Yeah, I have a study to go tomorrow, a new study. So I hope I can do this with the study too.
Yeah,
it's a difficult thing, but
because it's really just moving away from the ego's, not because it's wrong ego, but just because it doesn't function so well to bring us happiness, to try to be always moving towards something, to always trying to get somewhere other than I am in this moment. And I found myself, even in self-inquiry, I was trying to imagining, I'd ask the question, who am I, what am I? Next minute I'm thinking about what will it be like when 3 months from now, when I figured all this self-inquiry out and I was anywhere but right in this moment. And then I found myself just driving sometimes, and I was just driving and I was really enjoying it. I was very present, and it really taught me that there isn't any particular activity that's spiritual. It's really how we're coming to it, that makes a difference.
Yes, that is very helpful.
Good.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Nice to talk to you. Okay. Would anyone else like to ask a question or to share something? Martine, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can. Lovely.
Sorry. Nice to meet you, Helen.
Nice to meet you.
I only recently came across your satsangs, and I'm really happy that I have. It happened that I came across your satsang one night in February when I couldn't sleep because I had been struck with horrible sciatica,
Yeah.
pain in the...
Not very pleasant. Yeah.
Oh, terrible, terrible. And so in your satsangs, I've come across people who got advice from you about pain in the body, and I've tried and tried to apply it, what you said to them. But now this is 9 weeks onward, and my foot is numb. I've got needles and pins in it, and so it's not really progressing. So I was asking myself, okay, how come you are stuck? Why can't you move forward? My daughter told me, Mum, you're not down to earth with 2 legs on the, 2 feet on the floor. So I'm stuck. I don't know why this happens, and so I thought I would be.
Is there any kind of negative emotion that comes up with it as well? Or what kind of thoughts happen when you've mentioned a couple there that you've been looking at, sort of feeling stuck, feeling all of that. Is there any kind of emotion that comes with it as well?
Well, there is a sort of a fear that this will not go away. I love walking. So I can't do a lot of walking now because it's really debilitating in a way.
Yeah. Okay, so if we look at what's happening, if we can recognize that the body is a reflection of the self, ourself, as I'm sure you're aware, that the body is energy, first and foremost. It looks physical, feels physical, doesn't it? But it's on a much subtler level. It's vibration, it's energy. And so when we have an idea in our body, in our consciousness, that is no longer in agreement with what we've seen ourselves to be in our awakening, it's going to, sometimes it shows up as a physical issue in our body, such as sciatica, like you said. So if there is some fear there, what does that fear say to you? What does that fear... So you mentioned it already, but let's just dig deeper into that. This sense that I might not ever be able to get rid of this. I might not ever be able to do what I used to be able to do. What does it suggest to you, the fear? When it comes, what's the kind of feel, the thought process that comes with it?
Thing is, maybe I've done a lot of walking, in a sense, running away from doing true self-inquiry, because I'm also on this path for umpteen years and not getting anywhere. So that's why I thought maybe the universe is just putting me down, and now you do your self-inquiry.
No more running.
Yeah, no more running. So I'm listening to that, and I'm doing all these exercises. I'm listening to you, several times a day, and maybe a little bit exaggerated, but yeah, I am. So yeah, there is a fear of not being able to walk again, because I like being in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So
can it be true for you that this may not resolve? Okay, so what you're experiencing, if we look at very literally what you're experiencing, because the body is reflecting very literally something to us, and very literally it's this thing that will not heal, this thing that will not disappear, will not shift for me. And the fear says, it might not ever, it may not be able to ever go back to doing what I love. I might always be, and of course I'm exaggerating a little bit, but just for the sake of clarity for the conversation we're having. So can you then, because as a separate being, we've all experienced many times where we haven't gotten what we've wanted, and in this particular case, you want this to resolve so that you can go about walking or running or whatever you want to do. Can it be true for you then as the infinite self, as the pure awareness that this can't or might not heal for you? There's a sense, if we dig deep down into this, you might find a sense of feeling powerless underneath it, that this might not change, that it might be not anything that I can do something about. You know, some feeling that it's not, I might not ever be able to make this heal, to make this change.
As if it's beyond my control.
Yeah. And that feeling is familiar to us as separate being, isn't it? There's many things outside of our control, many things. And that's the nature of being a separate being, and why there is sometimes fear and all of that. But is that true as the pure awareness that is everywhere? Can there be anything outside of your control? Is it even possible for it to fail to resolve in the way that you want? And of course, our mind says, well, yeah, because I'm having that experience right now. But if we can see, having that experience because we're still giving some agreement to it, that it's possible that it might not shift, it might not resolve. There's an if about it rather than a when, isn't there, inside? Yeah. So if you can see that is the viewpoint of a separate being, but can it be true for you as the self? Can it be anything? If you can create and sustain this universe without breaking a sweat, can it be true for you that this isn't going to resolve? And our mind feels so very justified in holding on to this fear that it might not resolve because I'm experiencing this thing. It's not, I've been doing this and it's not working. But if we start from the place where what is really true about us, if we start from the real self, can anything block the self from having this resolve?
No, not from that standpoint, no.
So just reminding yourself of that as and when you can, that it really isn't an if, that it's not even really a when, although it may take a little time for this seeing to kind of, just a little while for it to deepen, that I've been coming from the place of if it happens, it might not happen. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel sometimes a little bit like a lie at first, or, sort of just, it's got to happen. But that is the viewpoint of the self, the infinite being that you are. You cannot be powerless over anything as the self in that way. Yeah. That little shift in how you're seeing it will really start to free up the energy of it. And I know you've also pointed to it, but it's useful just for the sake of speeding that transition. But you're also noticing that maybe you've been slowed down for a reason right now. So really embracing those reasons why life has come to a standstill. No pun intended. Sorry, that was awful.
I like that.
Didn't mean that one. Why might that be happening right now? And if I can embrace those reasons why that might be happening for me, then I'll get through this even faster then. Is there something I'm avoiding? Could there be something that I could spend a little bit more time looking at? And it could just be that there's just one thing that you haven't really been aware of that needs to be looked at, and that might be, one time my car had been sitting on the driveway overnight, nobody been near it, and I come out and there's 2 flat tires, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And eventually, of course, I got it sorted out, but I realized I had been avoiding things by being very, very busy, things that I needed to really look at inside myself. So, working it from both angles, can this really fail to resolve for me as a self? As a separate being, we just kind of accept that this might not, it's an if rather than a when. Can you see that feeling?
Yeah.
And then how can I use this time best when it is when I am slowed down, or sort of restricted in what I'm doing, what I can do.
Thank you.
Lovely. Sorry about the horrible pun.
No, that's good. It's comic relief.
Wonderful. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, we'll take Sophie and then we'll leave it there for tonight. Whenever you're ready, Sophie. Can you hear us, Sophie? I'm guessing perhaps she can't hear us. Okay, would anyone else like to ask a question, or we can finish there for this evening, or to share something? Okay. Maybe we will, I'll see if I can read one more of these questions then, seeing as though we've got a little bit of time. Okay. See if I can get through one more. Oops. So, this question, very short question, says, is there any point in praying to God for help since there is only one? Let me just... is there any point in praying to God for help since there is only one? This is a question that really confused me for a very long time as well. So I think it's very useful to talk about. There's a point as a separate being, isn't there, where we feel sometimes quite moved to pray to God, or to perhaps a particular being that we feel a resonance with, that may we really feel a connection with, that we want some help from, or some guidance from. And like most of us, I went through, well, I should imagine most of us, I went through this stage of, okay, well, there isn't really anyone outside of me separate to me, so is there any point in praying? Who am I praying to then anyway? If everything is me, what's the point in praying? Is there any reason for it? Isn't it inherently in separation? It's a question that gets asked very often, actually. It's comes up regular. And prayer really, for me, started off as a separate thing. I was praying to something else or someone else. I was praying to the self, to Christ, to anyone who would listen. In the end, I was that desperate for help. And then I stopped for a very long time. But then as the seeing that I was everywhere all the time deepened, there was this reconnection, this urge to reconnect to prayer, and a real kind of seeing that it is not necessarily any different than meditation. If prayer, or if meditation is just paying attention to what is real, communing with what is infinite about us, then prayer could also be that too. It's kind of an open asking, communing with that which is infinite, which connects all things, what we really, really are. So prayer in terms of me praying to someone or something else perhaps will fall away. But what we mean by prayer, it can develop into something much, much deeper, much richer. And when we can see that, even when I'm talking to, let's say I go to the supermarket and talk to some person in the supermarket, that really is a form of prayer, isn't it? Because in the end, everything becomes a prayer. That the very next being I encounter is myself. The self is the supreme being, the one. And my loving interaction with that being is a kind of prayer to the one, isn't it? To the self, in a way. It's a kind of service. It's a kind of intimacy, as we were saying before. So prayer evolved for me, and I think you might find this is what's trying to happen for you. It became less and less of a begging and beseeching, get me out of this horrible place I'm in, and I'll promise I'll do more meditation, to kind of an openness, a willingness to be with that infinite self that I really am, the communion, a deep sense of merging. One of the prayers I used to say was to take everything about me that is separate and leave only the one being. And that was a prayer to the one being. So I think prayer evolves, and it can be a very, very useful tool. It's not really any different than meditation or self-inquiry in the deepest way that we can be with prayer. And ultimately, our life becomes a kind of a prayer, doesn't it? Eventually, the whole way we're moving and living and reacting to other beings and things is a kind of reverence in the end to what we really are, what everything really is. It's just kind of how I started this evening. If I'm seeing the essence of what things are, then that's a kind of prayer in itself, a continuous, eventually effortless, ongoing prayer, where it's not really so much words are spoken, it's really where I'm coming from. I'd rather see the essence of everything than the more about the thoughts, less about the thoughts rather, that are going through my mind about this thing. So I'd say there's very much, in fact, there was even more urge to pray after seeing, and really that seeing deepening, as we were speaking about before. There's an amazing sense of gratitude and wonder and awe at the gift we've been given as human beings to be able to consciously recognize what we are. And that awe and that wonder and that gratitude is a kind of prayer in itself, just a reverence for not a particular being out there, but just for the wonder and the splendor that is all of this. So maybe your prayer is evolving, how you pray, and what you're praying to is changing. It could just be as simple as finessing, accessing a higher energy field. It doesn't have to be in separation. So, okay, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Namaste.